Welcome to Mini Lecture 1.1 for Chapter 1, Introduction to Data and Methods. First, let's define measurement. Measurement is the process of assigning numbers or labels to objects, persons, states, or events in accordance with specific rules for representing quantities, like how many of something, or qualities, like what type or how much of an attribute. So, for example, for a person, we could measure their age with a number of years, or we could talk about their age in terms of minor, young adult, middle-aged adult, or older adult. The first would be numbers, the second would be labels, the number of years would be a quantity, and the age categories would be more like a quality. Data are the facts and figures that we collect about something, and all of the data for one study is called a data set. Data sets are made up of elements, which are also called subjects. Sometimes they're called cases. And an element is an entity that's being studied. So in the example, one person, age would be something we're interested in, would be an entity. And for all of the people that we study, we would have all of those elements. So it could be a person, it could be a company or an organization, it could be a country, it could be something like a mutual fund or a product, it could be a salamander, it could be anything. A variable is a characteristic of interest about these entities, and it could be something tangible like height or the cost of something, or it could be something intangible like an attitude or a motivation. An observation, which is again also called a case, is the set of measures obtained on one element. So for our person in the previous example, if we have one person and we have their age and we have their height and we have their attitude towards something, those would be three variables which would form an observation on that particular element. Then for the next person, we would have those three variables for that element. So a data set has the cases, the individuals that we're looking at, and those are usually represented in rows. So each row is a case or an observation. The variables that we're interested in about the cases are usually in columns, and this forms a row by column matrix, which we often call a data frame. Notice that conventionally in data science, it is rows by columns. So number of rows first, and then number of columns second. Inside the matrix are the values for the variables for each case. So here's an example. We have 7 cases, and each case is a college. Variables include the name of the school, the state where it is, the campus setting, the endowment in billions of dollars, the percent of applicants admitted, and the NCAA division. And in this case, we have no missing data. We have variables for all of these. A population is all of the entities that we're interested in, and in many cases we can't actually get measures for all of the entities of interest, so we take a sample, which is a subset of the population that we collect data on. Later, we're going to learn to do inferential statistics, where we take our sample and look at the data and analyze it, and then use that to make claims about the population based on that. So for example, if we're interested in college students, that's a very large population. If we sampled 40 Smith College students, that would be a sample. If we're interested in households with pets, that's another very large population. And so if we looked at 500 households across the US that have pets, that would be a sample. If we look at all voters, another very large population. And then if we look at 240 registered voters from Massachusetts, that would be a sample. And if we're interested in all U.S. colleges, the 7 colleges we just saw in the previous example could be a sample of that population.